Hi YouTube. I'm going to be replacing the striker spring on my XDM 5.25. This one is probably shot more than 5,000 rounds or so, and I've noticed that I've been getting some light primer strikes. Now part of that may be from my reloads, not having the primer fully seated, because when I do switch it over to the hammer fired CZ, those usually will go off. But if I still do a second strike on it with this XDM by reloading it in the magazine and trying to shoot it again, oftentimes it still won't fire. So it's probably because the striker spring has been worn out over the years. I use this gun the most because 9mm is the cheapest to shoot. So we'll try replacing it, and there are probably better videos, but this is my attempt at replacing the striker spring on it. And while I'm doing that, I'll replace the roll pin. So I got this from an online store, XD Gun Parts, and the parts themselves are fairly cheap. The firing pin spring is only $2.49. I bought 3 of those. And the roll pin itself is also $2.49. I got 2 of those. Maybe should have gotten 3. I don't think it would have mattered in terms of the shipping costs. So here goes. This particular gun has the Powder River Precision Kit, trigger kit. And so unlike the original design, where you don't have to press the trigger in order to disassemble the gun, this one you do have to do it. So this gun is empty, doesn't have a magazine. Chamber is empty. Stick your finger in there, empty. So to disassemble it, this is what I mean. You have to press the trigger in order to remove the slide. So there is a plate here that you can slide off. The spring there is under tension, and there's a guide and for the cocking indicator. So you'll have to slide that off carefully. Put your finger over it as you do it, because it can fly. It can fly off. I'm wearing safety goggles, of course. So let's start the process. Let's start removing this and slide it off. So I partially slid it off, and my finger is right there in order to catch the spring that's under tension. And I point it down towards my table. That way, even if it flew off, it won't go away into the distance. So you have this part here, which sticks into there. They have their technical names. I don't know what the names are. And this is part of the cocking indicator, which normally would go through here. And that's what you see protruding through this to indicate that you're in a cocked position. So this is a striker spring that I will be replacing. We'll set that aside to make sure I don't mix it up with my new springs here. Now, since that's my only plan originally for changing out the spring, you could actually replace it without taking out this roll pin here. But I've been dry firing this gun for a while, and so I will go ahead and take it out. I have a hammer here, gunsmith hammer, and I have a roll pin punch set from Lyman's, and I'm using the 332s to push out the roll pin here, and we'll whack it with the nylon part. Let's see if I need to set it down somewhere, but I do have this piece here, so put it over that. nearly there. And it's out. Let's see the condition of the roll pin as it came out. So since it came out this way, keep in mind that when you have your firing pin hitting it as you're dry firing it, the firing pin stops by hitting the roll pin like so. That being said, the roll pin isn't as bad as I thought it would be, but might as well replace it. It's a fairly cheap part. And if you look at it, it's kind of crimped at both ends. One end is more tapered, so I'll do that with the new roll pin as well. But since this is the first time this firing pin has ever been out, might as well give it a rub down. Now I've been guilty of using some solvent in the breech face over here, which a lot of people say not to do, but I do it anyway. These are range guns, but you can have solvent go in there, and if they get gunked up, they can slow down the travel of the firing pin, and therefore cause light primer strikes. Now I don't think that's what's happening with my gun, but I might as well blow out that channel with some gun scrubber, which I'll do. Okay, so I've cleaned off these parts and wiped down the firing pin, and I intentionally tried to resist the urge of oiling it, because otherwise same thing might happen. Gunk might get into the channel, slowing down the travel of the firing pin. And but it's wiped down and it's clean. I also sprayed the gun scrubber into the channel there to clean it off, and so we'll reassemble it. As I mentioned, this is the roll pin that was taken off of it, so we'll set it aside so as not to mix up the old versus the new. Get one roll pin, and I do know I have to crimp one of the ends of this in order to make it go in easier. Let's see, the other one is left behind there, so that's the new one, and we'll get the new firing pin striker and set it over here. That's the new part. Now the springs I bought are the regular springs, the OEM springs. There is a plus power spring which is out of stock, and I figured if the original spec spring was good enough, then I don't have to change it out, rather than waiting for the extra power springs to become available in stock. So should be a fairly quick thing to do. So okay, so this is the new one. Let's crimp the end of it. Still going in straight. Still good. And whack it in. Going in. This is a 1/8 inch. So we're driving it in. When I get close to the hole, I will go use the 132 or 332. Okay, a roll pin is in with much difficulty. And again, here we put this back in. We are getting there. Hold it in. Start to slide. Will it make it? We'll have to see. It might start flying off. So far captured. Push it down some more. Good. Finally. And it's a matter of sliding it some more. See. Still captured. And let's see if we can push it in a tad. See if we can just snap it in here. It's almost in. It's almost in. There. There you go. Boy, that was tough. Okay, reassembling the gun. Hard part is done. Function check before I re-oil the part that was hit with gun scrubber. Okay, we'll do a function check. By golly, it works.